My name is Matt Holstein. I'm a staff attorney at Chicago Volunteer Legal Services, and today we're going to be talking about how you can try to help get out of default if you're falling behind on your mortgage. We're going to be talking about something called the CARES Act Forbearance. Now, this is a law that was passed in March, and it's to help people who are affected by COVID-19 to avoid defaulting on their mortgages. To be eligible for a CARES Act forbearance, you must have a federally backed mortgage. That means that your loan has to be owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or insured by the FHA or by the VA. And if you don't know, we have loan lookup tools on Chicago Volunteer Legal Services website that we're going to share with you a little bit later. But it does have to be a federally backed mortgage. This is around 70% of the mortgages that are out there, so chances are your loan is a federally backed loan, but it is worth finding out for sure. Reverse mortgages are also federally backed mortgages because they are insured by the FHA. So you can go to our website. You can also send us an email or call our hotline, and we can help find out if you have a federally backed mortgage. So what does a CARES Act forbearance do? It pauses payments for up to 6 months, and you can extend that for an additional 6 months if necessary. While you are in forbearance, they cannot charge you any additional fees or any interest beyond what is scheduled in your mortgage contract. So it's as if you're making your regular mortgage payments and they can't charge you any additional fees beyond your regular payment. All foreclosure activities have to stop. So they can't file for foreclosure, they can't continue with foreclosure while you are in forbearance. And you still owe these payments that are not being made, they're not forgiven. It's just you don't have to make them, your loan won't be considered in default, and you're not going to be charged payments. So you just don't have to make payments for 6 months, and you can extend that once for an additional 6 months for a full year. So after not making payments for this forbearance period, what happens next? What happens when the forbearance is over? Well, the programs all depend on who owns or who insures your mortgage. Again, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the FHA, the VA, they all have slightly different programs. But really, there are only a few options. They will either modify the loan by taking those missed payments and roll them back into your loan. That's called recapitalization. Or they're going to take your payments and put them on the end of your loan as a non-interest bearing balloon payment. That's called a deferral. Now, if you were current on your mortgage when you started your forbearance, actually, if you were current on your mortgage before March, you should be eligible for a deferral where they just pick up your payments and put them on the end. If you were behind on your mortgage before March, chances are you're going to be eligible for a loan modification where they're going to take those missed payments and roll them back into your loan. So how do you get a CARES Act forbearance? It's very simple. All you have to do is say that you've been affected by COVID-19 and ask for the forbearance. This doesn't have to be in writing, but we do recommend that it is in writing just so that you can have proof of making that request. There's no additional documentation that you need to submit. You don't have to send in your pay stubs, your bank statements. You don't have to prove that you have been affected by COVID-19. You just have to say it. So this is much simpler, and for those of you who worked on loan modifications during the last crisis and were used to the HAMP program, the Making Home Affordable program, this is much, much simpler than that program. CVLS has actually built a part of our website to help people apply for a CARES Act forbearance. So you can check to see if you have a federally backed mortgage, and if you do, you can download documentation and fill it out and send it into your bank asking for the forbearance. If you need help beyond our website, you can email us at covid@cvls.org, or you can give us a call at 312-332-8785, and a trained law student will help you through this process. So whether you're applying for a CARES Act forbearance or if you're not eligible for a CARES Act forbearance, there's still a few things that we would recommend you do when you're working with your bank. Regardless of your situation, you should be asking your bank for help. If you don't ask for it, they're not going to give it to you. So if you are approved for help, you should get it in writing. Don't just listen to something that someone told you over the phone. You want it put down in writing so you can prove that you had this option before you start missing payments or expect that something is coming down the pike. I also recommend that you keep a journal of all of your conversations with your bank. That means have a dedicated notebook, and in that notebook, write down every time you speak with a bank representative, include the date and the time of your call, the name of the person that you spoke with, what they said, and if they'll give it to you, their employee ID or name, and confirmation numbers for whatever they're telling you they're doing. Also, after you ask for help or after you send in documentation, follow up. If you don't hear from the bank, call them the next day. Keep calling and emailing until you get a response from your bank. It's possible that they're not going to get back to you in a timely manner. And if you are in foreclosure, keep opposing counsel in the loop with everything. The bank and their attorneys don't always talk about what's going on with your loan. And now this is an issue that I really want to make sure people understand is when a relative dies and you've inherited a home that has a mortgage against it that's not yours, what can you do? When people inherit property with a mortgage that's maybe their deceased mom or their deceased dad, the bank oftentimes won't talk with them after they've missed mortgage payments. So heirs in this situation, they do have rights, and the bank should communicate with you once they can confirm that you are an heir. There are loss mitigation options available. Those are options to bring the loans out of default. They're available for both forward regular mortgages when you're making payments to the bank, and they're available for reverse mortgages. For forward mortgages, you can try and modify the loan to bring it out of default and then assume it. That means take the loan and bring it into your name, or you could take out a new loan and pay off the old loan. In order to do these options, you need to be on title to the house, which usually means you have to probate your loved one's estate. For a reverse mortgage, if you are a surviving spouse, you just have to fill out a very simple certification. It's maybe 1 or 2 pages saying that you are the surviving spouse of the deceased reverse mortgage borrower, and then any foreclosure has to stop. They can't file for foreclosure once you're in this deferral period. You still have to pay your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance during the deferral, or you will fall out of the deferral and they can file a foreclosure after that. If you're not a surviving spouse and you're some other kind of heir, you have the right to pay off the reverse mortgage at 95% of the home's appraised value, even if that's less than the balance of the reverse mortgage. Again, to do this, you will probably have to be on title to the house. For all of these situations, when you've inherited a house that's with a mortgage that's in default, it's still worth asking for a CARES Act forbearance. And for the CARES Act forbearances, this option ends on December 30. So you need to submit your CARES Act forbearances as soon as possible if you do want one. So for all these options for people who have inherited property, you probably have to probate your loved one's estate, and that can be very difficult to do. You'll probably need a lawyer to get through that process. CVLS can help. We recommend that you email us at cvls@cvls.org, or you can again call us at 312-332-8785, and we can help figure out what your options are when you've inherited property with a mortgage against it. So if you are in foreclosure now, there are a few things that you should know. First, there is a moratorium on all foreclosures for federally backed mortgages that's going to last through the end of the year. So if you have a Fannie Mae, a Freddie Mac, an FHA, or a VA loan, the government is telling their mortgage servicers to hold off foreclosure through December 30. So your foreclosure should not be moving forward. Our courts are also largely closed due to COVID-19, and for the court dates that are happening, they're all being rescheduled and held via Zoom. So you may get a notice in the mail about a court date and give you Zoom dial-in information. That notice should also give you information about how to use Zoom and give you phone numbers for services if you're having trouble accessing that technology. Whenever you do get a notice about court, you should read over everything very, very carefully. And if you are confused about what the notice is about, you should call opposing counsel and ask them about it. There also may be clerks at the Daily Center who could help you to file documents via email. So you can contact the clerk's office and send them things that you want to have filed by email, and they should be able to help you with that. The clerk's office is slowing down and they're not being as helpful as they were at the beginning of the pandemic, but that service should be available to you. And even if you are in foreclosure, you should be eligible for a CARES Act forbearance. So if you simply say, I'm affected by COVID-19, and you have a federally backed mortgage, that should put your foreclosure on hold for that 6 months and up to a year. Your original default does not have to be related to COVID-19 to get a CARES Act forbearance. You just have to be affected by COVID-19 now, and your loan can be put into forbearance and any foreclosure can be put on hold. So here's a lot of resources for you. If you are in foreclosure and you need legal help, you can contact CARPLS, that's a centralized legal aid hotline. You can reach out to CVLS. We have an online intake and we have our general intake line. We also have our dedicated hotlines at CVLS for asking for a CARES Act forbearance or for helping you if you've inherited a home with a mortgage in it against it. That number again is 312-332-82